Successfully, and then we'll let the voters decide how it turns out. And hopefully, you know, last primary we had, everybody wanted to go over and vote against the sheriff in the Republican primary. Nobody voted in our primary. But I told all those people it wasn't going to do any good, and it did. Parnell got reelected again. So we need to get everybody to vote in our primary. And one of the first things that might be an accurate sign of our growing strength is that we have a really great turnout in our primary. So sign up to run for office if you think you can handle it. But everybody needs to vote and bring all their friends to vote. So I'm not going to talk much longer because we have many candidates. Tonight we are going to hear from Leslie Edwards, who's running for Justice of the Precinct 5, LucyAnn Sanchez-Miramontez, who's running for, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 5, for Leslie Edwards and LucyAnn Sanchez-Miramontez. Those are both running for Precinct 5. We're going to hear from Orenthal Townsend and James Lee, who are running for Justice of the Peace too. We're going to hear from Travis Gibson and Jeremy Davis, who are running for County Commissioner Precinct 2. Janessa Givens was supposed to be here to speak for Texas House of Representatives 56, but she could not make it, so Ashley Dean Thornton is here to speak for that office. Holly Taylor, Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, place 9. Gordon Goodman, Texas Supreme Court, place 7. Kristen Hawkins, Texas Supreme Court, place 7 also. Then we'll take about a 5-minute break and we'll hear from J. Gordon Mitchell, who's running for Congress, Molly Forrest, who's running for Congress, and Casey, a third Congress candidate. Then Vicki Goodman will finish out our program. So thank you very much for being here tonight, and we're just going to get started right into it. Our first speaker will be Leslie Edwards.
I'm running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 5. A little bit about me. I am married. My husband, Tom Edwards, is a data analyst and software engineer for Baylor. We have one daughter, Madeline. She recently graduated Baylor, and now she's working on her PhD at Baylor for the next 5 years, so we're super proud of her. I'm a lifelong Wacoan. I've been heavily involved in this community for over 35 years. And since I only have 5 minutes, I'm not going to go into every bit of it, but if you want to see all of the board of directors and organizations and committees I've served on over the past 35 years, it's all there at edwardsforjp5.com in the About Me section. I've been in real estate for full-time for over 20 years. Before that, I was in healthcare, first in nursing and then in hospital administration. My experience is I've worked in a level 1 trauma ER, the old Hillcrest. I've worked in pediatrics and some inpatient psych facilities. After 13 years in healthcare, I got an opportunity to work in a really great real estate team that I couldn't pass up, and I quickly became a top producing agent here in Waco. I then got my broker's license and opened up Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, Edwards & Associates, which is a national franchise that I brought here to Central Texas. Grew that into an award-winning office here. We could sponsor anywhere from 10 to 25 agents at any given time, depending on the market. About 5 years ago, I opened up Better Waco Rentals to help support the Better Homes and Gardens, and my office staff and I manage over 100 properties all over Central Texas. So as a judicial candidate, I am in a unique position of being bound by the Judicial Code of Ethics on what I can and cannot say tonight regarding politics. But what I can talk about is the Democratic Party's growing momentum here in McLennan County. I know there's a lot of people on the state level here, but my expertise is at the county level, so I can talk to you about that. A few years ago, we saw a lot of large movement of people coming from states like California and Oregon and Washington, and a lot of that was politically motivated, of course. But what we, as realtors, were seeing and talking to the people coming to McLennan County specifically were for different reasons. And a lot of it was they discovered our amazing quality of life. They discovered our low,
So I have a problem, and it's not because I'm admitting, it's because I've always been this way. Our third congressional candidate is Casey Shepherd, and he's sitting in the back there. So our next speaker will be LucyAnn Sanchez-Miramontez, who is also running for JP5. She is the current holder of that seat.
I'm not as tall as Mark, so I've got to bring the mic down. Well, good evening, fellow Democrats. And as Mark said, I'm Judge LucyAnn Sanchez-Miramontez. I'm in my first term serving as Justice of the Peace, Precinct 5. And I just want to say it is an honor to stand before you here in the heart of the community. And I've had the privilege to serve over a decade, first in municipal leadership and now as Justice of the Peace. You know, this precinct is more than lines and a map. It's vibrant neighborhoods such as Beverly Hills, Alta Vista, Cesar Chavez, Sanger Heights, and the heart of Texas, the heart of McLennan County. We are neighbors and community members, and as your Justice of the Peace, we must reflect and understand the diverse lives of the people who call this area home. Experience matters. When I first ran for office, I promised to bring judicial experience, administrative efficiency, and deep commitment to fairness. My years of service as a council member, a mayor pro tem in Beverly Hills, coupled with my paralegal background, prepared me to understand the local issues and that directly affect my constituents' lives. Over the past term, we have worked diligently to run Precinct 5 Court with efficiency and respect towards every citizen that enters our courtroom. The Justice of the Peace Court is often called the People's Court, and for good reason. It is where you handle small claims, debt disputes, traffic citations, and critically important matters like evictions and truancy. Those are not abstract legal concepts. They are kitchen table issues that determine whether a family has a home or whether a student run a courtroom that is accessible, ensuring that every person, regardless of background, income, or legal representation, feels respected and understood, to apply the law fairly and impartially. In every single case, whether it is a small civil dispute or a magistrate function, like signing warrants or conducting inquests, I investigate thoroughly. To focus on intervention, particularly in truancy cases, my court has built bridges and ties to other communities to ensure our young people are in the classroom where they belong, laying the groundwork for their future. JP5 has worked with Clara Center, MHMR, Starry. We've also worked with Judge Garcia for Waco Municipal Court with YOP, and we have gained access to community service activities for our young folks so that they learn the possibilities of education here in McLennan County. I was recently asked to become a mentor for Leadership Waco, which I wholeheartedly accepted, to continue to try to show young people that education and experience are accessible to them. Looking forward, the work of a Justice of the Peace is constant. We are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, performing the vital magistration duties that keep our county safe and our judicial system moving. It is my deepest commitment in the two critical areas in my JP office, which is working with public education to expand on children gaining access to education. For them to follow a pathway to training, to a 2-year degree, or even a 4-year degree, to express the potential of children in the JP5 area. So I ask for your vote this election so that I may continue the honor of serving you as your Justice of the Peace per Precinct 5. Together, we will ensure that justice remains fair, accessible, rooted right here in the heart of McLennan County. Thank you all for your time. God bless you. God bless our community, and happy Thanksgiving.
So next we'll have our candidates for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 2, and the first one will be Mr. Orenthal Townsend.
Good evening. My name is Orenthal Townsend. Some people know me by my nickname too. I'm here running for Justice of the Peace for one reason. I want to increase the truancy cases that we have. When we have kids, at 13 and 14 can't tell time, this is either on a digital clock on a cell phone on a computer. When you can't tell time, we learn to tell time in 3rd grade. We drew the clocks and put on the hands on. Our kids don't know it. We have to do a better job communicating with our parents. Those are where my big issue is. Said, well, I worked in jail, so it won't be an issue for me. I have over 27 years of dealing with kids, adults, inmates, moderation, the whole 9 yards. But it's what do you want for your community? That's what you gotta ask yourself. Our community, from where we come from, we stereotype. All the trouble, crime is there. But if I can be a mentor and help, I can do a change. I can be a change. I have kids calling me father. I'm not their dad. I'm not their dad. But it's just the thing about it. When you show you care and show love, they gravitate to you. I have people trying to say, what are you doing? You let these kids call me dad. I've been an HEB kid. Hey, Daddy, how you doing? Oh, you asking for no money? We good. I've had kids come and tell me, Sam, college wasn't for me. But did you tell your mom and dad? Yes, I did. That's one of the biggest things that I can say I help kids. When you know something is not for you, and you stand up and say, I'm wasting time. This is not for me. The little girl I'm talking about, she stopped going MC in 2 years. Had some grades, but she felt it wasn't for her. She has a career, she's doing great things with her life. But for her to say, you taught me how to stand up for myself. And the last thing that I would like to say, I want to have a reasonable time when y'all call and say, my loved one, the transition on. I want to get there in a reasonable amount of time. Because I'm going to have respect for that family. I'm going to have respect for that person. But I don't want to keep nobody out. They shouldn't be. I want to help the family to start the process of healing. The next couple of days is going to be one of the roughest things in their life. They got to prepare a funeral for somebody that's gone. Nobody wants to do that. But I don't want to hold anybody up from doing it. If you got to wait for me longer than 30 minutes, let me know. I'm going to apologize if I get called out more than twice. I resign. Because my thing is, I'm for the people of Precinct 2. That means before the people, you're going to have criticism. You're going to have people that will call you on your word. But if you can't stand behind the word, what are you doing? I'm going to stand behind my word. If I cannot increase truancy, if I can't increase a reasonable amount of time on notification of death penalty, I will resign. This is not a game. I'm playing lives. I have kids here that I see every day. they cannot tell. But they can, they get support Friday night, Thursday, football, basketball. They there. Where are the parents from Monday through Friday from 8 to 4? We need parents in the schoolhouse. I was there for my kids. And all that as a JP, I want to help guide them to that way, but they know they have to go see them and check on their kids. When folks work with my sister came, used to be mad at my sister because she used to tell everything I did wrong. But the thing about it, if you're for the people and for your community, it's an easy job, a wonderful job. But if you're not, don't get it. Because it's stressful. On that note, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. God bless you. Thank you.
All right, the next speaker will be James Lee. He is the current Justice of the Peace Precinct 2.
Good evening, everyone. Before I start today, I want to take a moment of silence, and that's for my campaign treasurer. His wife recently passed away. George Dixon lost his wife, and so I will take a moment of silence and show respect for her. Thank you. So this rally is all about recruiting, right? And that's what we're here to do, to make sure that we get the right people in place. You've heard from 3 JPs, Justice of the Peace, in regards to our roles, our responsibilities. And I just want to throw out one thing. A lot of people think that our main job and our only job is to declare people dead. It's not. It's not. So there's a process that I want to make sure that everyone knows, and this is public. Whenever someone passes away, it's the job of the first responders to save lives first. That's their main job, is to save that individual's life. And if they cannot save that individual's life, or if that individual has already gone on to glory, then at that time they have to secure the scene. That's the next step. And then they contact the JP if they are not attended by a doctor or physician. So that's the inquest part. And I've handled many inquests in my time. I've been in office since 2015, and I've seen things that the average person cannot stomach. I've had to wake up at 2 in the morning and go sit with family and ask them questions that I really don't want to ask them about their loved one. And then turn right back around and try to get an hour worth of sleep before I have to be back at work because we have court. We're a small claims court. Jurisdictional limit is $20,000 and under. We have people filing small claims, individual to individual. We have people getting debt claims filed on them. That is, if you go out and get a card from, let's see, Walmart, or even Sam's, and you don't pay it, guess what? They filed that case in JP court. And guess who has to be there that morning, bright and early, even though you only got 2 hours of sleep, to make sure that you get a fair trial? It's the JP. It's the JP. And in between, guess what? We still get calls. We have jury trials. A lot of people don't think that we do. So here it is, we have jury trials, and guess what? We get calls. So you have to be able to multitask and be able to deal with everything else that's going on and still have the composure to make sure that you get a fair shot. That's what I've done over the last 10 years. Make sure that the people, not just in Precinct 2, but just in McLennan County, got a fair shot. That's it. Now, in regards to recruiting, I've been volunteering on Democratic campaigns since I was 18 years old. I'm 48. 18 years old, I started out volunteering on campaigns for Chet Edwards, Jim Dunham, and my deceased father-in-law, Commissioner Lester Gibson. And then anyone else that was on the ballot. We fought for them, door to door, making sure that people were informed that, hey, it's time to go vote, and this is who we want you to vote for. We had slate cards provided by the party, and that's what we used. And so with that being said, I have 1 minute left, I appreciate it. I told y'all a little bit about some of the things that we do as a JP. And along with my role as JP, I'm the IT liaison for McLennan County. We have a new system that they're putting in place. Me and my knowledge make sure that the justice courts get everything done right. They come to me. They don't come to no one else. They come to Judge Lee to make sure that we're in compliance with the law. I'm the district director for the Texas Justice Court Judges Association. Guess what we do? We train judges and clerks across the state to make sure that they are taking care of y'all. These are things that just part of my job that I've been doing to make sure that you get what you deserve, which is a fair shot. And if these attorneys come in not doing what they're supposed to do, they are not going to get a judgment against you because you're going to get a fair shot. I ask for 4 more years. With your help, I'll get that. Thank you.
Next will be our candidates for County Commissioner Precinct 2. The first one will be WISD trustee Jeremy Davis, who is running for that office.
All right, good afternoon. In 2024, something happened that hadn't happened in recent history. McLennan County Precinct 2 flipped from Democrat to Republican, and in so creating a fully Republican Commissioner's Court. Since then, that fully Republican Commissioner's Court has closed 10 polling locations across our community, as well as an off-year redistricting or gerrymandering of our county maps, overwhelmingly affecting Precinct 2, in my mind, on political and racial lines. And with the intent to sustain a fully Republican Commissioner's Court, but with your help, not on our watch. If we haven't had the privilege of meeting yet, my name is Jeremy Davis. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a Waco native, and someone who's dedicated my life to the well-being of our community. It's important that we have a county commissioner who understands the totality of the role, but who also understands how to be effective for the people of Precinct 2. We hear a lot about roads and bridges, and I agree that roads and bridges are important, and I will be an advocate to make sure that our Eastern Rural McLennan County constituents can go from worship and work and home peacefully. But it's also important that we have a county commissioner who understands how to manage and oversee a budget and use those funds in a way that will be effective for Precinct 2, right? Someone who has a background of being effective for the people of Precinct 2. In my roles professionally and in my volunteer work, I've overseen and managed budgets from a few thousand to over 350 million, ensuring that their funds were used in a fiscally responsible way, but also in a way that would have a positive impact on our community. It's important that we have a county commissioner who understands that it's important that we undergird our vital community programs, who help the least of us, the programs who help the ones who are less fortunate and who are in need in Precinct 2, especially with us being the lowest socioeconomic precinct in McLennan County. It's important that we have a county commissioner who understands how to work collaboratively with our nonprofits to undergird our small businesses, which are the backbone of the economy in Precinct 2. It's important that we have a county commissioner who understands the vital role of being an advocate and a safeguard for fair and equitable elections. I mentioned that the fully Republican Commissioners Court successfully closed 10 polling locations, but they proposed closing 12. And myself and other Democrats went to the Commissioners Court to advocate that those stay open, and we successfully did so. We need someone who not only understands how to go in and cause good trouble, but who understands how to be effective for the people of Precinct 2. It's important that we come together as a community and we don't let distractions divide or disguise or disrupt what we have going on as a community, whether they be here internally or sent down from Marble Falls. It's important that we stay focused on moving McLennan County in the right direction, not staying stuck in the past, but honoring the past and letting that catapult us into the right direction. I'm their leader that's going to walk us into a new day, into a positive direction in McLennan County, and I ask for your support as I'm running to be your Democratic nominee for County Commissioner Precinct 2. Thank you.
All right, our next candidate will be Travis Gibson. He is former mayor of Belmead and Belmead City Councilor, and a very, very long-term presence in McLennan County politics.
First, good evening, everyone. I'm glad that everyone could come out tonight, and I know this rally is supposed to focus on, not only the candidates, which I have a lot of respect for all of the candidates that are here tonight, those that have filed and those who plan to file before the deadline, which myself is included. Because we should have more people here tonight. We have a lot of candidates, we have a few from the community, but that should tell us and show us how much work we have to do, right? My name is Travis Gibson. I was born in Waco, Texas. I was raised in a household where both of my parents were public servants. My father was along with City Council of Waco City Council for a long time and also served on the Commissioner's Court for 28 years. My mother, she was on the Waco Independent School District Board of Trustees, and she was also the president of the Board of Trustees. So growing up in that household, I had no choice but to learn how to serve. And as I watched my parents go out every day, oftentimes neglected me and my siblings to do better good for the entire community. So public service is in my DNA. And I'm not running for McLennan County. It's not no political reason, no political motivation, but it is personal. Just like Trustee Davis said, the McLennan County Commissioners Court gerrymander, trying to lessen the strength that we have in Precinct 2. But I'm here to tell you that if we get out and work, we still have the votes. And if we get out and work hard, knock on doors, do grassroots campaigning, we will prevail. And you have to understand your why. A lot of people ask me, so why are you in public service? Why did you run for City Council of Belmead? Why did you serve as a mayor of Belmead without getting paid? And my answer to them is because it's simple. I'm here to help. And to be a politician or to run for a particular office, you have to have a heart to help, to extend a helping hand out to those who are less fortunate, be a voice for those who can't speak for themselves, and to bring equity and fairness to everybody, because everyone deserves a chance at a fair shot in life. Last night I had the chance to watch my two grandchildren. And as I was looking at my granddaughter, she's 1 year old, and it made me understand the reason why my why is my why. Is so she can have a fair shot when she's 16, 17, 18 years old. And we stand on the backs of a lot of great men and women who have come before us, who have laid the foundation. So we can't sit back and get lazy with our vote. We have to bet. We have to continue to fight. And I had a long time friend, Ms. Jo Bess Campbell. She was a long time Democrat here in McLennan County. And I had the opportunity to sit down and speak with her, and she said that she was a yellow dog Democrat. Now, if you wake up and see what's going on from the federal level, state and local, if you don't get fired up about these primaries coming up in 2026, I don't know what can get you fired up. The sign says it all, we the people, democracy. Our democracy has been being tainted. So don't be discouraged, stay encouraged, because we do have a bright future ahead of us with the elected officials that we have now and the ones that are going to come on after us. So now I'm an educator, so I'm in education, which that's really a big part of my service. So I go and I see these young men and women. Each and every day that I go to the university, high school, I see those students who are about to graduate. They want to go out to college and come back here to McLennan County, but there's no jobs. That reminds me of my why. When I see a hard-working single mother go to work every day, just try to put a kid to school, try to provide them with a good, decent meal at home tonight, but still find a way to follow short. That reminds me of my why. When I see the injustice that goes on, not only in McLennan County, but throughout this world, it reminds me of my why. And so I ask you tonight, what is your why? All right? I was always taught if you see something going wrong, or if you see something that needs to be done, don't wait on somebody to get up and fix it. You get up yourself and do it. That's what I was brought up on. That's how I was raised. And so public service is in my DNA. And so if you know someone that wants to run for office, you don't have to be a long-term politician. I got 1 minute, okay? You don't have to have a long list of credentials. You got to have the heart to help. And so I encourage you, because every ballot, every seat that's on this ballot needs to have a contested race. And it needs to have a Democrat running. Because the more people we can get to run, the more we'll invigorate people to get out and vote. And it's unfortunate that we have to have a reason to go vote when that is our fundamental right. And so, Mark, I want to thank you for putting this event on tonight. And I want to leave you with this. Okay. I ask you to go vote, encourage others to vote, and consider stepping into the role. If you got a role to help, or if you want to fill one of those positions, go ahead and file to run. It's not hard at all. And so stay encouraged, and we got a big, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. We got to continue to stand and fight. And so I want to thank you for coming out, and my 5 minutes is up. And thank you.
So at this point, we were supposed to have Janessa Givens. She couldn't make it tonight. This is for the Texas House of Representatives, District 56. And our candidate that's here tonight is Ashley Bean.
I can walk around and hold the mic. I'm going to stand. My name is Ashley Bean Thornton, and I am running to be your representative in the Texas House of Representatives for House District 56. I have about a jillion things that I would like to talk to you about tonight, but I have limited time, and so if there are only 2 things that you're going to remember about me from tonight, I want it to be these 2 things. Number 1, I believe we are all better off when more of us are better off. And I believe we should invest in that. Number 2, I believe our public schools are our best tools for making sure that more of us are better off. Those are the 2 things I'd like you to remember about me. So number 1. What do I mean when I say we are all better off when more of us are better off? I believe that when families in my community are stabilized and able to work and prosper, then my community is better run. My community is healthier. My community is happier. My community is stronger and safer and more beautiful. And it's a better place for me to live, and it's a better place for all of us to live. And so if families need help with things like health care or child care to be stable and to prosper, to me, that is a good investment. So that's what I mean by number 1, when I say we're all better off when more of us are better off. So number 2, I believe schools are our best opportunity to make sure that more of us are better off. The Texas legislature is responsible for funding and managing public schools. We can and should have the best public schools in the country. So I am very disappointed when I hear our kids in our public schools are doing amazing things. The kids in China Spring built an airplane this last year, for goodness sakes. We have kids walking across the stage at every graduation who have a complete associate's degree in their pocket. We have kids that walk across the graduation stage every May who have a complete trade certificate in their pocket that they can use to walk right straight off that stage into a good paying job.
All right.
Our public schools are doing an amazing job for some kids. And we have a tremendous opportunity to make our communities better off by making sure we are doing that same amazing job for more of our kids. Here's what I mean by that. Right now, if you are a kid from an economically stable household and you go to a public school where most of the kids at that school are also from an economically stable household, then chances are you are going to end up right where you need to be when it comes time for graduation. However, if you're a kid from an economically at-risk household and you go to a school where most of the kids there are from economically at-risk households, then there's a pretty good chance that you're going to have a tough time getting to where you need to be when it comes time to graduate. Those are just the facts. Those are just the facts. The good news is we know what works to help these kids do that. We know that things like pre-K, things like trauma-informed counseling, things like developmentally appropriate curriculum, things like wraparound services, things like high-quality after-school programs can make a big difference in helping more kids get from here to there. The bad news is that we are not doing those things consistently for the kids that need them. Instead, we are investing $1 billion into a voucher program that has not been shown in any other state where they have a similar program to significantly help kids get from here to there. We can and should be doing better, and we would all be better off if we did. So 2 things. I believe we are all better off when more of us are better off, and we should invest in that. And I believe more of us would be better off if we would consistently do what we know works for our kids in public school. If you're on board with those 2 ideas, I hope that when the time comes, you'll vote for me, Ashley Bean Thornton, for the Texas House of Representatives. Thank you.
So next, we're about to transition to our judicial candidates. And these folks face some challenges that other candidates don't face. A lot of times they had to have required signatures on petitions, in some cases very large numbers of them. They had to wage statewide campaigns, and it's very challenging to do that because they don't get the kind of name recognition that the governor or the lieutenant governor or whatever goes on. Courts are doing their job when you don't hear about them too much. But they are vitally important, and they have been in the news a lot lately. And Texas is suffering in part because of the one party controlling all of the judges for the most part. So the first speaker I'm going to welcome is Holly Taylor for the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals.
Bonnie Taylor, and I'm running for the most important Texas court that most Texans have never heard of. It's our Court of Criminal Appeals. So you have some candidates here that are running for the Texas Supreme Court. And most people have heard of that court. What most people don't know is that Texas actually has 2 Supreme Courts. So what we call the Court of Criminal Appeals is actually our 2nd Supreme Court here in Texas. And the Texas Supreme Court only deals with civil appeals, things like lawsuits and contract disputes at the highest level. The Court of Criminal Appeals is the court of last resort for all criminal cases and the important constitutional issues that arise in those cases. Everything from serious murder cases down to traffic offenses, misdemeanors, at the highest level in Texas are handled by this court. So the decisions it makes set precedent that all other Texas courts have to follow, all the way down to the justice of the peace courts that you've heard from candidates for those here today. So the court is super important. It's deciding issues like First Amendment rights, digital privacy, and Sixth Amendment rights, who gets a lawyer and how they represent those people. These are some of the really critical issues that the court is deciding. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I am a career prosecutor for the most part. I have spent over 25 years practicing criminal law, and I have prosecuted government corruption in Austin. You can probably guess that we are not bored doing that work in Austin, Texas. I also prosecute violent crime in my community, working to take dangerous people off the street and to keep my community safe. But another really important thing that I've been doing for the last 5 years is that I've been working closely with our conviction integrity unit in Travis County. And that's the part of our office that investigates claims of wrongful conviction. When people come to us and they say, I know that this person is innocent and sitting in prison in your county, and we'll investigate those claims. We talk to the witnesses who testified at trial. We talk to those witnesses who were never called to testify at trial. We do DNA testing under modern technology, and we talk to scientific experts to make sure that we got it right. And I'm going to tell you, as a career prosecutor in Travis County, I thought when I started doing this work that we weren't going to have any wrongful convictions because we were working to ensure that justice was done and to keep our community safe, and we certainly weren't intending to put innocent people in prison. But I am going to confess something to you today. I was wrong. I was wrong. And through doing this work and digging down deep to get to the truth in these cases, I found that we do have some wrongful convictions in my county. And the thing that was truly shocking to me is that I discovered that some of those cases that I personally had prosecuted years ago, in other words, I worked to put this person in prison, were wrongful convictions. And a few of those people were actually innocent. And it struck me to the core, and I've been working very, very hard to make those cases right. And I'm proud to say that my team has been successful in one of those cases already in exonerating an innocent person from prison. But through this work, it has opened my eyes to the cracks in the foundation of our criminal justice system. And the court that I'm running for, the Court of Criminal Appeals, is at the very top of that system, and it is their responsibility as the ultimate fact finder in these cases to ensure that justice is done. And I'm going to tell you that I have been disappointed in some of their decisions and very concerned. And that is why I'm passionate about running for this court. And I will also tell you that in 2024, I ran for another seat on this court. And I wasn't able to talk about this important reason why I was running because I felt shame. But I think it is really critical right now that we lead with integrity. There's a lot of lies and misinformation out there in this world, and it is really critical that our leaders, and especially our judges, have integrity and that they are honest with people. So my name again is Holly Taylor, and I'm running for the Court of Criminal Appeals. And if you have any interest in learning more about my campaign or this court, there's some information on the table back there that's got a QR code that goes straight to my website. Holly Taylor for the Court of Criminal Appeals, thank you so much for welcoming me here today.
So now we'll go to the other Supreme Court. The first speaker will be Gordon Goodman, who's running for the Texas Supreme Court, place 7.
Thank you. My name is Gordon Goodman, running for place 7, Texas Supreme Court. As Holly explained, there are 2 Supreme Courts, and the Texas Supreme Court is the one that deals with civil matters. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, my background, and then I'm going to spend part of this time that I have, what is it, 25 minutes, right? 5 minutes, talking about one of my cases from the Court of Appeals. I spent 6 years on the first Court of Appeals, which is the court that deals with the 10 counties surrounding Houston. There are 15 courts of appeals in Texas, and the only courts above the courts of appeal are the Supreme Court and then the Court of Criminal Appeals. So sometimes our cases would go up to the Supreme Court and sometimes up to the Court of Criminal Appeals. And below us were the district courts, the courts that trials are conducted. In any case, my background is here in Texas, working in litigation and general practice. It started my career up in Amarillo, and then most of my career was spent working for corporations. So I have a background with DuPont Corporation, Conoco, and Occidental Petroleum. And part of what the Supreme Court deals with, obviously, is business matters. And I have a background in business I think is probably unique among all the candidates. But part of what we want to do is not only bring a good knowledge of the Constitution and the laws that we have to uphold, but also to be able to deal with the business disputes that are brought before the Supreme Court. We want to make sure we have candidates who can bring that to the general election, where we have to go up against our Republican brethren. So I think that's an important aspect of what we should try to bring to this race. In terms of my background, besides working in corporations, I've served on the boards of the Urban League. I served on the boards of the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Houston, and also on the boards of the Texas Southern University Business School. So I have also a background in the community, and that work is just as important to me as the work that I've done professionally. So the last part of what I want to talk to you about, though, is one of my cases. And this is the case of Janessa Givens. How many of you have heard of Janessa Givens? One. Anyway, Janessa Givens was a sheriff in Beaumont. And she was elected as the sheriff, and she was the first black female sheriff in the state of Texas. Now, for reasons I don't understand, the Texas Rangers came to investigate some of her election reports. And I have really not studied those reports, so I don't know what the issue was. But apparently, they took their findings to the Jefferson County District Attorney and asked him if he'd prosecute her based on whatever they uncovered. So he looked at those findings and didn't find them to be very, very convincing, because he said, I'm not interested. I'm not going to bring this case here in Jefferson County, in the city of Beaumont. And usually that would be the end of the matter. But what the Texas Rangers did is they decided to go bring their findings to the Attorney General. And you might know who that Attorney General is? Sure. Oh, Ken Paxton, that's right. He said, I'd be happy to bring this case. And so he took the case to the adjoining county. So, Beaumont is a relatively large city. He took it to Chambers County, a small rural county that's adjacent to Beaumont. And tried to bring the case there. It came to my court as an appeal, and what happened is that she said that the Attorney General has no authority to bring criminal matters independently, which sounded like an odd comment. We had to really stare at it. But after staring at it and staring at the Constitution of the state of Texas, I found she was right. The Attorney General can assist local district attorneys, but has no independent authority because the Constitution took it away back in the 19th century after we had a corrupt Attorney General who was trying to prosecute all of the governor's political opponents. Does that sound familiar to anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so I wrote the opinion. No one on my court agreed with it. And this is really the point I want to make to you. That dissent went up to the Court of Criminal Appeals, where the judges there all agreed with me, and all Republicans. And part of what we have to do as appellate judges is not only be right, but also have the ability to convince our brethren, many of whom are Republicans, that we're right. And that's exactly what I've done. And I've done it over and over again. If you want to look at my dissenting opinions, there are 6 of them that have been reversed by the courts above the Court of Appeals. And I also encourage you to look at my published articles on ethics. Again, my name is Gordon Goodman. I'm running for place 7 of the Supreme Court, and I ask for your support.
All right, next, also for Texas Supreme Court, place 7, we have Kristen Hawkins.
Hello. How do we get this down? Let me just do this. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right, I'm between you and a break, so I'm going to try to not take that long. This is better. All right. I am Kristen Hawkins. I am running for the Texas Supreme Court because Texans deserve a choice. Greg Abbott has appointed 7 of the 9 current Supreme Court justices. Texans deserve a choice. And my name is Kristen Hawkins. I'm running for the Texas Supreme Court. I'm going to go over my qualifications real quick. I have been serving in the trial court. I am the current judge of the 11th District Court in Harris County. I have run and won 3 times. I have been serving for nearly a decade. I am double board certified in civil trial law and personal injury law. I was Tex Aboda Judge of the Year. I have worked hard for juries to make sure that we had juries during the pandemic in Harris County. But we're going to stop talking about that because that's not why I'm running. I'm running again because we deserve a choice. The scales of justice are tipped, and they are not tipped in our favors. It is time to rebalance the scales of justice. Okay? The Texas Supreme Court deals with issues that matter to everyday Texans. I see them come into my court every day. I know the effect of those opinions on everyday Texans and how they can bring their case to court. I know the effect of those opinions on how the jury decides the case. And the difference is, I look in your eyes when you walk into my courtroom and the Supreme Court doesn't. I see the effect that it has. We need to rebalance the scales of justice. That's why I'm running for the Supreme Court. I'm Kristen Hawkins. I'm running for the Supreme Court, but I can't do it alone. I need your help. I need your help to get signatures to get on the ballot. And then I need you to go out and tell your friends. Now, I have an opponent here, and in full disclosure, you've now heard from both of us, and you get a choice. You as Texans get a choice to decide who should get your signature. Your signature is valuable, you are valuable, and when I look into Texans' eyes every day, I think that we need to bring the scales of justice back into balance. Kristen Hawkins, Texas Supreme Court.
All right, so we're about to go take a little break so that people go to the restroom and get something to drink. But I wanted to point out that several of these candidates have put petitions back there along the wall. And if you sign one of these petitions, you cannot sign their opponent's petition. You can only sign one petition per office. And if you sign the petition, and this is going to be hard for some of you, you have to vote in the Democratic primary. If you've heard something you like today, go ahead and sign those petitions. Like I said, the judicial candidates really need them. So it's very important. So if you feel strongly about someone, go ahead and sign their petition. Get something to drink, go to the restroom, relax. We'll come back with the congressional candidates.
So you got double the numbers?
Yes.
That's awesome.
I got lips.
That's good.
I know.
All right, we're going to resume the candidate forum. We don't have too many to go. Looks like maybe we have 3 candidates, and then some time for questions if you have any. We're going to go with the U.S. Congress, District 17, candidates to be our congressman now, or congresswoman. And very important right now, you hear every day about the battle for control of the House. It would be front page news all over the country if we could capture this congressional seat. And I think we have a particularly objectionable congressman in many ways. He is not representative. We had that town hall a few months ago, and what he had to say to so many people was just too bad. Go get a job. He was not very responsive, and the town hall was kind of geared to be a pep rally, and we ruined it, and I'm really proud that we did. So we're going to go ahead, and we're going to begin with J. Gordon Mitchell, who is a candidate for Congress.
Good evening. My name is J. Gordon Mitchell. I'm an Air Force veteran, former drill sergeant, and former senior enlisted advisor. Most recently, I was a senior mission planner for Joint Task Force Texas during the state's COVID response. I am a first responder and a twice-elected school board member who still likes to get into the classroom as a substitute teacher whenever I can. You know, I spent my life serving my community, my state, and this nation. If it was bleeding, broken, frozen, on fire, underwater, being swept away, or being blown away, chances are I was there. I showed up. I did the work. And I was accountable to the people that I served. And showing up and doing the work and being accountable, that's what leadership is. As a leader, as a leader, oh my gosh, I had to rewrite this real quick because I went way too long. As leaders, we must show up when it counts, when it's hard, especially when it's hard, like right now. When people need you. We must do the work shoulder to shoulder with the people that we serve. And we must be accountable. That means that every choice, every decision, every plan must be measured by one simple question. Does it protect and benefit our neighbors? Or does it cause harm and put our communities at risk? Now, I'm going to tell you a story. I was in Rockport, Texas, 12 hours after Hurricane Harvey made landfall. And I was working alongside firefighters and other first responders who had lost everything. Their houses were gone, obliterated. Thankfully, their families had been evacuated before the storm hit. And so these responders, they didn't have time to process the devastation that they were facing because they were running the recovery effort. They were going door to door. They were sifting through the rubble, trying to make sure that their neighbors were accounted for. It showed me that leadership isn't something you learn in the classroom. You don't learn it in a boardroom. Leadership is not a title. Leadership is a decision. To show up, to protect people, and be there when it counts, especially when your community needs you. That's the type of leadership I want to take to Washington. Today we face, and I'm going to put this back in now, today we face an entirely different kind of storm. People are working 2 and 3 jobs and then still having to decide between groceries and rent. Families drowning in debt. Too many of our neighbors are one flat tire or one ER visit away from financial ruin. Our rural hospitals are closing. Veterans are sleeping unhoused because of bureaucratic delays and failed systems. Our Black, Brown, LGBTQ, and marginalized communities are being targeted and terrorized. They are being treated like second-class citizens in ways we have never seen before by a corrupt administration. Women are being denied basic rights, bodily autonomy, and healthcare choices. Let me tell you something. Women's healthcare is between a woman and her doctor, period.
That's right.
Immigrant families live in fear while ICE conducts unlawful raids in unmarked vehicles. And our public schools are starved for the critical resources they need while our teachers carry the weight of the world on their backs. Let me ask you something. Is that the American dream?
No.
Because it sure seems like a nightmare to me. People are being pushed closer and closer to the edge every single day. They deserve better. You deserve better. You deserve a leader who shows up, who listens, and then who fights like hell for you with the same urgency and the same determination that I saw in Rockport, Texas during Harvey. Showing up and doing the work when it matters most, that's what I've done my whole life. So what are my priorities? First, we need an economy that works for working people. That means we need a living wage, we need affordable housing, and we need universal health care.
Yes.
Texans deserve an economy that honors their work, not exploits it for profit. Second, we need schools that lift every child. That means fully funded classrooms, strong teacher pipelines, and real and meaningful support for the professionals who shape our children's future. Every student must be served breakfast and lunch in school, no exceptions. But you know what? We can't talk about good schools until we talk about safe schools. Because kids can't learn and teachers can't teach if they're too busy worrying about if they'll get to the end of the school day without being killed by gunfire. We need common sense gun reform, full stop. Families need basic protections that keep their communities safe. And I am talking about universal background checks, I'm talking about red flag laws, and I'm talking about closing loopholes. I'm talking about ending the sale of bump stocks and silencers and high-capacity magazines.
Yes,
Age restrictions for assault-style weapons.
yes.
Mandatory safety training before you purchase. Folks, these are not radical ideas. These are the basic minimums to keep our communities safe while still respecting the Constitution. Every person in this district deserves to be seen, heard, valued, and treated with dignity and respect. Speaking of respect, you know, if your representative shows up for photo ops and free lunches, you don't have representation, you have theater. I don't do theater. I don't show up after the disaster in a suit looking for the podium and the cameras. I show up during the disaster wearing work clothes with my sleeves rolled up, and I look for places that I can jump in and help. That's what I have always done. That's what I will always do. That's the kind of leadership that Texans expect, and that's the kind of leadership you deserve. But I can't do this alone. Change doesn't start in Washington. It starts right here, right now, in rooms like this with people like you who refuse to give up on our neighbors. I'm asking you to stand with me. I'm asking you to join Team Mitchell, and together we can do something that is honest and strong. We can finally send somebody to Washington who will fight for this community, who will fight for working families, who will fight to protect children, who will fight to bring back integrity and accountability to this office, and who will never stop fighting for you, and you, and you, and you, and everybody in this room. My name is Jay Gordon Mitchell, and I am running for Congress because leadership matters. Thank you.
So our next speaker was supposed to be Milo Flores, but evidently she hasn't made it here tonight. So we're going to go ahead with Casey Shepard, who is also running for Congress.
Microphone ceremony. My name is Casey Shepard, and I'm actively seeking the District 17 House seat. I am a proud Wacoian. I went to Waco High School, or Midway High School, sorry. I went up to college on a government policy debate scholarship, and then to law school. In 2010, I started my practice here in Waco, focusing primarily on indigent criminal defense. I learned a lot about not just the criminal justice system, but the average lives of ordinary Americans that most of us miss. I'm standing here today because I feel a genuine call to run, not just as any candidate, but for this particular seat. The 2026 election is going to be, of course, about stopping the bleeding, about putting a brake check on Trump's agenda. And a lot of people will say that this election is about, in general terms, the spirit of America, the ideal that is America, but I think it's something a little bit more personal. I think this election is about who we are as people. It's about what we believe. I believe that children don't have to go to bed hungry. I believe that people deserve a shelter over their head. I believe that everyone, no matter what, deserves to see a doctor when they're sick, and that everyone deserves to advance their lives through education and job training.
Yes.
I do believe that we can still get back the best parts that were America, but the task for our future is to take those parts and combine them with new ideas to create a better America in the future that we're going to build together. So if you share my beliefs and my hopes, I respectfully ask that you consider me as your Democratic candidate for House Seat 17. Thank you for time, and thank you all for being here tonight. It's a testament to our democratic system that we have so many that are interested. Thank you.
For our last candidate of the night, this is someone that most of you saw last spring at our big rally. She was supposed to be here a couple weeks ago for QW, but she made it this time. She had to go and elsewhere on that day, but we're so happy to have Vicki Goodwin, who's our candidate for Lieutenant Governor.
Hello, McLennan Democrats. How are y'all? Good. I'm Vicki Goodwin. I'm a state representative from the Austin area, and I am running for Lieutenant Governor. We need to can Dan for St. Patrick packing.
That's right.
But really, we need a good win for Texas.
Yeah.
Let me tell you the 4 main reasons I am running and what I hope to do. Number 1, support public education.
Yes.
This last session, we passed vouchers, and I know some people think, oh, how are we going to undo that? Well, let me tell you, it's not that hard. Because the Lieutenant Governor decides what bills come to the Senate floor. The Lieutenant Governor can say, I will not take a budget that includes any money for vouchers. And as Lieutenant Governor, that is what I will do. You know, this session I was really surprised. I knew that our governor and lieutenant governor were tearing down our public schools K through 12. But what really surprised me is sitting on the appropriations committee, all of the university presidents coming before us and saying, please reinstall our institutional enhancement funding. And I said, what are they talking about? Well, apparently, the lieutenant governor and some others had decided to take out $400 million from our universities because there was too much DEI.
Yeah.
Right. They are doing everything they can to whitewash our curriculum in our public universities. And as lieutenant governor, I will not let that happen.
All right.
So I'm very passionate about our public schools because I grew up in a family where my mom was the ultimate PTA mom. She was always involved. She even started an organization called Positive Parents of Dallas. Now she wanted to spread the word about all the good things that are happening in our public schools, and I really appreciate Ashley talking about that very thing. The great things that our public schools are currently doing. Because they are doing great things. And unfortunately, our current leadership goes around saying that they are failing, and that is just not the case. So we've got to support our public schools, our teachers, and our kids, because over 90% of our kids do go to public schools. All right, so that is number 1. Number 2 is healthcare. Like someone earlier said, our healthcare system is broken in Texas. People should not have to create GoFundMe pages to pay for their health care. People should not go into bankruptcy because they've had one medical emergency. So this session, I serve on the insurance committee. The chairman of the committee said we need to bring down the cost of health insurance. Okay, so his big idea was to remove coverage for rehabilitative care when people have head injuries or strokes. Is that a horrible idea or what? Thankfully, the doctors came to the Capitol and advocated against that bill, but it will come back. I will not let anything like that pass when I am Lieutenant Governor. I always think back to what my grandmother said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We have some fantastic programs out there, mobile clinics that go around to the areas that don't have primary care doctors or don't have enough so that people can come and get their diagnostic testing done. These are inexpensive things that we can do. And you know what? Texas has the money. You know how I know? Because this session, we put $70 million into the Thriving Families Fund. Now, it used to be called Alternatives to Abortion. They used to provide diapers and things like, not really health care. And when we debated that bill, the author of the bill kept saying, oh, they're doing great things. We said, prove it to us. Tell us what they're doing. Show us the data. He couldn't. Okay, so there's at least $70 million that we could put into primary health care with just a stroke of a pen. And there's many things like that that we can do, but healthcare is vital. We need to make sure people are getting the healthcare that they need. Number 3 is housing affordability. My background is as a residential real estate broker. I sold homes for many years before getting into the legislature. I want people to realize the dream of home ownership. It breaks my heart when young people feel like they won't ever be able to buy a home of their own. And I had 2 bills this session that would have helped with that. One was the Fair Rent Incentive Act to put downward pressure on rent prices. The other was to expand an already existing program called Texas Homes for Heroes, which provides low interest rate loans, down payment assistance for our first responders and our teachers. Simply wanted to expand that program. I will continue with that and other ideas. And then lastly is water. Anyone here think that water is an issue in Texas? The state demographer says that we're growing by 1,500 people a day, and those people are not bringing their water with them. So we've got to pay attention to that. We did just pass a new fund that will give us money for water projects, but we have to watch carefully to make sure that money goes to the right place, and we should be looking at reuse and conservation, not just desal. All right, so just remember, good win for Texas. I am Vicki Goodwin, and I want to be your next Lieutenant Governor. Thank you.
All right, so we are going to have a few minutes for questions. And I'm going to move this microphone down there. Nobody's going to have to climb the steps again. And we will carry one microphone around the room. Maybe you can help me with that. And to anyone that wants to ask any other candidates a question, we have about 10 or 15 minutes to do that. All right?
All right, Ms. Tucker? Yes. So my question is, besides water, and we always hear about Texas education to prison pipeline. I know I hear it in my court a lot, especially with juveniles. What can you do as Lieutenant Governor to ensure that instead of being reactive to juveniles, we set something in place to be proactive with school-age children, especially that 14 to 17 years old, where they're just starting to lean a little bit on the wrong side. Is there something we can do? Is there something in your position as future Lieutenant Governor to help that process?
Yeah, so I appreciate that question. I will say 2 things about that. First of all, I believe at the state level, our responsibility should be funding our schools well enough that they can hire the resources that they need and make local decisions about what's best for the students and the families there. I do think that with more resources, we could have more counselors in our schools, and counselors might be able to help both the parents and the students figure out what is going on in their lives to cause them to misbehave and to help them get back on the right path. But right now, we do not have enough resources, and in fact, the legislature tried to make it so that clergy could come in and be counselors without the training that they need. It was left to our school districts to take a vote on that, and as far as I know, no school district that I am aware of allowed the clergy to come in without the necessary training. But again, it's up to the legislature to provide the funding that could go to the school districts, and the school districts could say, hey, we've got this really great program that has kept kids from going to prison to going to juvenile justice system. Let's put more resources towards that.
Can I answer you? So I know that you were asking Vicki, but I have a response to that, if that's okay. My name again is Holly Taylor. So I work currently in the Travis County District Attorney's Office, and we have been exploring a new program called the Transformation Project. And it's a restorative justice program in which juvenile offenders who, and one of the most common offenses for juvenile offenders in the age group that you're talking about to get picked up for in our county, and I think many other counties across the state, is a domestic violence incident. So when this occurs, we evaluate them. We have law enforcement partners who are working with us on this program for whether or not the situation is appropriate for this program, the transformation program. And if it is, then they have the opportunity to, instead of going to a juvenile detention center, to go somewhere else for a cooling off period. The family is offered social work services and other services that could benefit the family. Both the family and the juvenile are offered counseling services. It's a very elaborate program. I'm not over that program specifically, but my office has been working on it. And we just passed a landmark in this new program. 100 juveniles were deflected from the criminal justice system and were not ever incarcerated and made successful progress with this program. I think this kind of thing is a future that we should look at for our state as a whole in a lot of different areas. I think this is a really incredible opportunity that many different counties should be looking at. And my court, although most of what the court does is just deciding criminal cases that come before the court, and juvenile cases, I'll tell you, are actually civil under Texas law. So those are actually decided through the civil justice system. But nonetheless, the Court of Criminal Appeals does have an important role to play at the top of the system. And that is that they co-administer our Commission on Mental Health. And the Court of Criminal Appeals plays a role in administering a pretty large grant program that can be used for research. And so I'm not there yet, but I would be very supportive of looking into those opportunities for exploring restorative justice programs for this, because the youth are our future. And I think that it's really critical that we stop that school to prison pipeline that you were talking about.
This is for those that are running for the Texas Supreme Court and for Vicki. We know that our elections fall under the state authority, but daily we hear about the threat to the power of our vote. What can you do to protect our vote here in Texas?
Take that one. Okay, protecting the vote. I think first of all, we are looking at the laws that we have on the books, okay, and not trying to be outcome oriented. I think there are a lot of times that the people who are looking at things have a certain outcome in mind. And as a judge, I take an oath, and I am a current judge, so I am currently under this oath, to follow the law. And that's what I would do. I would follow the law. Sometimes it is limiting in what I can do, and I have to look at people who are running for other positions, and you have to look to them to change it. But I do it every day when I have juries in my court, a fair and balanced playing field, and not to look at the outcome, but to look at the facts and the law and apply them fairly for all Texans every day.
So yeah, I've been on 2 quorum breaks as a result of what the Republicans have tried to do with regards to our election laws and voting rights. First, in 2021, after the 2020 election, and they kept saying it was stolen, they tried to change our election laws, and ultimately were successful. But we did a quorum break to raise awareness. Things that were successful, like in Houston, the 24-hour voting, the mobile voting, the drive-through voting, are now not allowed. When I am Lieutenant Governor, we will go back to let's make it easy for people to vote. We should have online voter registration, automatic for certain instances. We do so many things on our phones. Why can't we register from our phones? We can figure this out. Technology is there. And then when it comes to voting, making sure that we keep the early voting, making sure that we expand early voting locations as our population grows, unlike Tarrant County that just closed down 100 polling locations at a time that their county is growing. So my goal will be to make sure that we are going in the direction of making it easier for people to vote.
Yes, I wanted to ask the congressional candidates a question. I'm a merchant, and I've been polarized by the biggest tax increase in American history, these tariffs, the GOP Trump tariffs. They are raising so I had to raise my prices to my customers. I'm one of the folks who unfortunately is participating in raising the cost of living that we've been talking about. So what are you going to do about bringing down these tariffs or eliminating these tariffs that Trump had no right to impose? I want to know.
Well, thank you for the softball. Capitalism as an institution, the way that we're going about it, the problem isn't so much the tariffs and so much the raising the prices. The problem is that we, the people, send most of our wealth to the top. That's where the problem lies. If we weren't sending so much of our money to the top, if we had corporations and we had billionaires who would just pay what they owe,
Yes.
there would be enough money that we wouldn't have to worry about tariffs and all of that craziness. So the short answer is, what I want to do is I want to see our tax system completely overhauled, so that, as an example, a 10% tax for somebody that's making less than $50,000 a year is a whole lot different than somebody paying 10% of $5 billion who, oh, I'm sorry, you get 100% tax breaks because you're doing offshore and you're doing all of these other things, right? We have got to get billionaires and corporations to pay their fair share. Once we do that, I think this problem solves itself.
All right.
Honestly, the tariff issue might be solved before any congressional legislator gets into office. It's before the Supreme Court right now, and the justices expressed extreme skepticism that the president had the sole authority to implement tariffs when they're clearly a form of taxation which would belong to the legislature. If the Supreme Court doesn't have the guts to make that decision and take away that power from the president, then someone like me in the legislature would need to fight like hell to wrestle that power back.
Okay, my question is for the two candidates running for District 17 also. My name is David Wiley. I'm the one of the union presidents here in the city of Waco, and I've stretched out pretty much far across the state of Texas. I'm sitting here looking at Pete Sessions' lifetime scorecard on how he votes for unions, laborers, and working people. My question is, we have a whole bunch of HRs on the table right now. HR 1065, HR 70, not to privatize the post office. AFGE's got some HRs on the tables also. My question for the two candidates is, are you going, when you get to office, are you going to support the union workers and are you going to support the labor workers?
Absolutely. The labor workers, organized labor, have traditionally been what has advanced the plight of the worker in the United States. There are a number of bills, both on the state and federal level, which seek to privatize, essentially privatize industries. Privatize the post office. The voucher system is a clear example of them trying to privatize the education system. As long as though the Republicans proceed down that route, it's going to become more and more important for the legislature to support unions and workers who are now going from the public sector to the private sector. I would fully support those workers.
And so, as I talked about in my talk, we need a living wage. And we support a living wage by supporting and strengthening our unions. Of course I'm going to fight for unions, because unions, in my opinion, are the only thing standing between us and total authoritarian rule. You are just I will do everything in my power to support and strengthen unions. And any attempts to block them or to shut them down, like they're trying to do in Temple this week, will not stand. Will not stand. I will go down for them.
Okay, as Democrats, where does our leverage come from? And what type of leverage do we have as Democrats?
Comes from you. And I think the only way we are going to turn this state blue is from the ground up. We run qualified candidates who can serve a full term, who can bring a good, sound platform that we have here to office from the ground up, offices on the ground floor, it goes up. We carry everyone up. That's what we have.
I just want to bring some hopeful news. Because last weekend I was with Kendall Scudder, who is the new Texas Democratic Party chair, who is doing amazing work, traveling the state, energizing the party. They have been working hard to recruit candidates all over the state, and we now have a Democrat running for every congressional seat, every state house, every state senate, every state board of education. All of these seats. What that means is with all these candidates, they are getting out there, talking to folks, getting them excited about next year's election. Plus, everything that is happening in the world, prices aren't going down. People are seeing, people are being laid off, the tariffs, all these things are going to drive voter turnout. First time I ran was in 2018. 12 Democrats flipped seats, including myself. I see the same thing out there in the communities around the state going on as what was happening in 2018. So I am very hopeful that in 2026, we are going to surprise some people.
That's all very helpful. I was there too, and I was super excited. And I've been campaigning all over the state, and I am seeing a new energy. One of the things I may have mentioned is that I ran in 2024 for a different seat on the same court, and I didn't see this energy last year, even though it was a presidential year. And now we're in a midterm, and I am sensing a very different vibe from people. And I'm talking about some very red areas, even redder than this county, if you can believe it. They're out there. So it's tremendous. But one thing I'm going to say is this isn't going to happen by itself. And I think that Kristen's right. It's on all of us. All of us. We must have those painful conversations with our friends and family. We've got to reach out. Lots of people are hurting. I'm sure everyone in here knows someone who's hurting. The gentleman back there mentioned the tariffs. I think lots of people have been impacted by the tariffs and many other policy decisions. And when we speak with folks who are struggling, people in my family have lost their jobs and can't find new jobs. For example, things like that. I think we need to reach out to them and have those conversations about those difficult issues. People don't like to talk about politics, but we got to talk about politics because politics are talking about us. They're doing a number on us right now in our lives. Among our families and friends, and we got to have those hard conversations and reach out and bring our family and friends to the polls.
My question is for Vicki. Thank you so much for running for Lieutenant Governor. I think it's really important. But my question is, how are you going to address the draconian abortion law we have here in Texas? If you have a state legislature that is full of people who have really peculiar ideas about women's bodies and how they operate.
So I think we need to reach out for help from the doctor community, the medical community. They wrote a letter to the legislature last session that didn't have a lot of impact. But I think we build coalitions that continue to put pressure on legislators with a different lieutenant governor, with a different governor, with a different makeup. I am hopeful that we flip House seats. Ashley here is going to flip the one here. Yeah. We are going to have a whole different makeup in the Texas legislature in 2027. But I think we also work with coalitions, doctors in particular, young women that want to have babies but are worried about being pregnant in this state at this time, and putting the pressure on all of our legislators until we do change the law. Thanks.
This is for everybody in the room. I ran for Congress last term, 2024. I told everybody what was coming. I told everybody about Project 2025. I told all the Democrats the right things. But in the election, 17th district, 25,000 less Democrats voted and 25,000 more Republicans voted than 2020. So as we campaign, I think we need to address what a terrible Republican Party we have. Not exactly our great ideas for the country and democracy. I think we all know that we all have those ideas, and we're talking to all the Democrats. Somehow, we have to convince the Republicans that they've made a big mistake. A mistake with tariffs, a mistake with women's rights. And so, ideas about that, because we talk the talk, then come election, this is a red state. Couldn't even come close to beating Pete Sessions.
Well, I think you said it in saying that you were warning people. Now they feel it. It's reality. I think, unfortunately, people don't react until it impacts them. And
remember, Fox News tells them it's not.
Well, I think there's enough folks who are small business owners who have been hurt by tariffs. There are enough people who have family members who have been laid off. There are enough people who are dealing with schools and don't want vouchers. There are enough people in I mean, there's just story after story, issue after issue, where people have a reason to be angry at the Republican policies. We just have to remind them that these are Republican policies that are hurting them, and this is the individual Republican that I'm running against that voted for this policy. That's the thing. A lot of times people don't know how their representatives and senators are voting, so we do have to point that out. For example, my neighboring representative, her constituents don't know that she voted for vouchers. So that candidate who is running against her needs to point that out so that voters are informed. And it's up to each and every one of us to inform our friends, family, neighbors, coworkers. And I like to give a little acronym. So social media is what so many people get their news from these days. And so we need help amplifying our messages through social media. So my acronym is FLOCS. That is follow a Democrat, a candidate like myself. Like, often, comment, and share. So that's FLOCS. Follow, like, often, comment, and share. That will lift our messages on social media, and that is so critical in this day and age where people get their news from social media. Thanks.
I have a question for anyone in the room. I would just like to know what you're going to do for our immigrant neighbors. We have DACA recipients that don't know if they're still going to be able to be here next year. We have tons of immigrant neighbors that are afraid to leave their houses. So I just want to know what people do in your positions of power to help them.
So, the previous question was for all of them, so any of them that wanted to speak to that previous question?
Yeah, I think I missed
Perhaps
two
we can
questions.
kind of combine the two questions.
Yeah, I think I missed Ms. Green's question as well about what leverage do Democrats have. I know in Precinct 2 we have the numbers, we have the votes. Even with the redistricting, I still believe that we have the numbers to outvote our Republican counterparts. What happened last year when we ran is we had division in our community. And it's important that we don't get amnesia, because sometimes when we get amnesia, we repeat, and history repeats itself. But we have to remain unified, and we have to mobilize voters, because they're there. There's more of us who think the way we do, who want the same things that we want. We just have to get them off the couch. So what we have to do as Democrats, the leverage that we have is that we have the numbers. What we must do is we must unite. So that means there can't be petty drama and division on social media that divides us. That means once a person wins the nomination, they support and undergird their candidate so that they can be successful in the general election. So I can speak on Precinct 2.
So I'm going to answer both questions. The leverage that I see as the Democratic Party that I don't feel like we discuss enough is family, community. The message that I always spread as a Democrat is the Democratic Party. You hear it all the time, oh, you guys want to give things away for free. You want people not to work. No. We want equality. We want to equal the playing field for everybody. We want every family to be able to thrive. And that is a message that I have repeated for years. My dad is a baby boomer, and he and I constantly talk about this. And this is the one argument that I have with my Republican family and friends that say we are anti-family. And I say, no, we are a family-oriented party. We are a community party. We are there to service others. The Democratic Party is a call to service. That is a repeated theme that each one of us candidates up here have said repeatedly. We are called to serve. We are called to serve. Our Democrats are here to serve you, to enrich your lives, not only to help you get the medical, the education, and the resources you need, but also to fulfill that your children and your grandchildren have the same opportunity to be a business owner, to be a lawyer, a doctor, that you have those opportunities. And ma'am, as far as your question about DACA, in my courtroom, I deal with undocumented parents and students, and it is challenging. We work with, again, we build that bridge in JP5 to allow resources to these families. We don't give legal advice, but we work with the schools when a student has been detained, and we work with the schools to say, okay, has this student been moved out of the country, or will this student return to the school? The schools work to help bring those kids back into the United States and back into the school districts. Because you know what those immigrant kids are doing? They're star soccer players. They're A honor roll students. They are valedictorians. And they are here for the opportunity. And as a judge, as a JP judge, we are a people's court. And I feel one of those duties is to bridge community resources with everybody that comes into that courtroom. And sometimes it's saying, you can get legal help through this. We have a page, and we say you can contact one of these places here in Waco, and they can give you legal advice, which we can. But it's a resource. It's resources that immigrant families don't think they have, but it's a resource.
I will say this. The immigrant family that lives down the street is not the reason that insulin is $300 a vial. The queer couple that lives next door to you, they're not the reason that you are a flat tire or an ER visit away from financial ruin. It's about the economics. The people at the top want you to think that it's the person below you that doesn't look like you. That is the reason that you're having all of the problems that you're having. And the longer that they can keep us pointing fingers at each other, people like Jeff Bezos keeps and keeps and keeps, right? So it's about the economics. I'm going to cover this part first. Excuse me. Pete Sessions' stated net worth, a little over $10 million. The average salary of a school teacher in Texas means that that teacher would have to work for 169 years to equal Pete Sessions' net worth today. There's your problem. And as far as DACA and immigration policy, this policy, and I'm going to point to the DNC and the RNC, this is a perennial problem because it's a cash cow for both parties. This problem is fixable. We can assign TINs and people can start paying taxes and become a full citizen, right? There are ways to do that. The first thing we have to do, and the first thing that I'm going to fight for when I get into Washington, is I'm going to get rid of ICE, and I'm going to replace it with the Department of Immigration, Naturalization, and Refugee Services that is trauma-informed, that leads with humanity and compassion first. That's how we fix the problem. We educate our neighbors that the people that don't look like us, they're not our problem. They're not the reason that we're struggling. The reason that we're struggling is because those at the top 1%, keep taking and taking and taking and taking. And I'm going to leave you with a quick little thought, and I'll sit down and be quiet, I promise. We were all taught throughout school about capitalism, supply and demand. If the supply is tight, or I'm sorry, if demand goes up and supply is tight, prices go up, right? That's just the way it is. Well, let me tell you what happened with the latest avian bird flu when I used to sell chicken eggs. The cost of me to produce eggs never went up. But when everyone else was raising their prices to $9 a dozen, people were like, well, Jay Gordon, why aren't you raising your prices? Why do I have to? Well, supply and demand, man, there's no eggs. We bought that. We think that makes sense somehow. No, I don't have to to raise the price of eggs because someone else has a problem. My cost of business did not go up. So why am I going to gouge you? And while we're talking about gouging, we're talking about dynamic pricing. Dynamic pricing is nothing but legalized gouging, and we have to stop that as well. So both ends of this subject, but for DACA, we need to eliminate ICE. We need to educate people that do not look like us but live in our communities and are working hard are not the reason that we are struggling. It is the people at the top.
All right, so we have one last candidate. We have a very distinguished visitor with us tonight, Julie Evans, who is running for House District 64 up in Denton. Everybody give her a hand. She came to see how McLennan County rolls, and I hope she got something out of it. This is the first in the series. We have at least 4 more candidate forums between now and the primary. So you can be able to have other chances to see some of these same people again, but probably a lot of the others that couldn't be here tonight. So I want to thank everybody that came out. This went pretty well. We'll learn and we'll get even better. I want to particularly thank Karen Dobson, who helped us with the timekeeping and the microphone, Debbie Newsom and Jackie Rhodes and Cindy Kovac, who were working the registration table. If there's anybody here, there's not many, but if you're not signed up for our newsletter, you can do that on the way out. I attempt to put every single thing that's happening in it. A couple of things I want to mention. We will be protesting Pete Sessions' State of the Nation speech to the Waco Chamber of Commerce at Ridgewood Country Club. We're going to join the Waco Friends of Climate in their protest at the gates of the country club. That's on the 5th of December at 11. And we have our holiday party on the 10th of December at 6 o'clock right here. And you can, the links to purchase a ticket for that will be in those newsletters. So sign up for the newsletter, and then you can sign up for the holiday party, and it'll be fun. And then later at the end of the month, Indivisible Waco has their holiday party. And on the 13th, Texas Democratic Women of Central Texas has their holiday party. We're just going to party the whole month because after this month, it's a long, long pull. So thank you very much for coming out. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Thank you to our candidates. You honored us by being here today.
Okay. Is that all, folks?
Yeah, call the candidates that are still here. We're going to come up and get pictures. Hey, David, can you take a picture of everybody?
Sure. Get next to LucyAnn. You come down, you come down.
Jay Gordon.
And don't fall in the back. You go down there again. Okay, Joe? Act like y'all like
Because if they were smart, I would never start on that in the first place, you know?
if that worked for you.